just open it up, and I noticed that really spawns into other conversations. So real quick, I did a part one crimes, that's your major crimes, crime check of your area. So I know normally you have it up there at the new Airborne Square, or that village area up there. So I did a 1 mile radius of this location, and it stretches pretty far. You had 17 major crimes, that's burglaries, indecent exposure, domestic violence, and armed robbery. That is in comparison to 22 last month, same time, same place. So it did decrease a little bit. Overall, I looked at your crime stats quarterly in this whole entire area, which is called District Paul, or District P. That covers everything from Tully Road to Evergreen Estates, everything from the foothill to Highway 101. And so what's interesting is it's actually good news. And again, this is a quarterly report, so this will be January to March. And so what I did is I looked at your aggravated assaults. Aggravated assaults are any type of shooting, major assault that requires ambulance care or hospital care, excluding domestic violence. The reason I bring that up is that's going to be a more public safety issue. So I did a January to March of this year comparison to compare to January to March of last year, and you're down 15%. Last year in 2016, January to March, you had 20 major assaults, and January to March to this year, you had 17. So it's a 3 incident difference, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, when I have to present to City Hall, they always like to see the decrease. It's better than going up. And as far as burglaries, again, last year you were hit pretty hard. There was a burglary crew out in the Evergreen area that actually covered up the Milpitas. If you don't recall, it was a crew out of East Palo Alto. It was a gang of thieves that were hitting all the houses, and I think they were good for over 200 burglaries in the East San Jose area. And so eventually we had to put a task force together. So your numbers were much higher last year. It definitely decreased this year. You had a total of 64 in the last 3 months, covering the whole entire area, like I said, and that's compared to close to 200. So that's a huge decrease, but we attribute it to that one gang crew. And so that being said, we enter the summer months, school's out for a lot of the school districts, if not this week, next week. And so it's basically common sense on burglary prevention, auto prevention. Know that if you're going on vacation, just do a whole bunch of different things, and you've heard them all, from letting your neighbors know you're there, to leaving your cars in the driveway, having someone check your house. There's a whole slew of things, but just use your common sense and be aware you're entering the summer months. Staffing is still at a shortfall in San Jose PD. We're about 780. We're still trying to reach that 1,400 mark. It's going to take about 7 years, but use your common sense. And same thing with going at night. Now with the lights sunlight's going to stay out longer. Weather's going to get warmer. Just be aware of your surroundings. Use a lot of common sense. That I could go on different prevention measures. So recruiting and retention. That being said, recruiting is a little bit on the uptick now that our pension and benefits are kind of negotiated and done with. So if you didn't know, Measure B was rescinded. It was voted, and so the pension for active officers like me will stay the same. The newer officers are going to be at a reduced pension. That's just the way the economy is, and that's what we voted for. We're looking at 50 or 60 officers. We're hoping to hire the next academy. That is almost 100% increase. We've been averaging 20, so to get 50 or 60 is great. And mind you, that's out of 2,000 candidates. That's basically the people that pass the background and able to pass all the medical and psychological backgrounds. And then some people ask, well, you have 2,000 candidates and that's the most you can get? Well, what happens is we used to get 6,000 to 7,000 candidates to get the 60 candidates because the background is so strict. So one of the questions is, well, why are they still not coming to San Jose? You pass the pension, you get better benefits, but I was talking to Mr. Richard Santos, who actually did the retirement board, and that is always a question. I went down to LAPD, I was at a seminar, and still the question is it generational? Or guys are just not wanting to become police and firefighters? Or is it pay and benefit? So San Jose PD used to be the cream of the crop. And so what the argument is still leaning towards is pay and benefits. I think there's still a lot, and some of you may have kids, a lot of great candidates out there that still want to be cops and firefighters. That's the bottom line, and it's nationwide. Some people just want to go to LAPD because of the name. They don't care. So they still want to be cops and firefighters, but ultimately paying benefits is the problem that caused our downfall. And so we are building on that. We have great support. I don't think Josh was here from City Council. Huge support from City Council. So again, I've said it a couple times. Pensions done, benefits are getting better, raises are coming. So we do see an uptick in our recruiting. So like I said, we're just below 800. We anticipate to get to 1,400 in about 7 or 8 years. So as you know, traffic enforcement, homelessness, and calls for service tend to be your top 3 issues. So in your area, same thing, calls for service. I call the police, they take forever to come out, or they don't come out at all. We're prioritizing our calls for service, as you know. And so your major crimes are going to come first, and your low priorities come last. If sometimes we don't even come out. So to alleviate that, a lot of it you know already, maybe you don't, but we have our system where you go online, report your calls, you can call it in and call 311. You don't have to wait. Again, our dispatchers are depleted, but we're building. That's the business. Second issue is homelessness. So it continues to be a problem. City Council gets it. I was at a budget meeting with the mayor's chief of staff, Joshua was there, Councilman Arenas was there. Homelessness continues to be a problem. The city gets it. The question is, what are you doing about it? And so, affordable housing is the #1 issue. Where do we put them? So, City Council is working on that solution right now. In the meantime, we just do what we can to manage the problem. We're not going to get rid of it. So just accept the fact they're going to be here. But what the police department's role, as well as Parks and Rec, City Council, is we manage it. So how do we manage that? We try and clean up the parks by community participation. We get funds from City Council also. We look at alternative resources. So we look at, okay, we send out a response team. Do they need help with mental illness? Do they just need any help? A lot of times they say, nope, I'm good. I don't need your help. I like living under no rules. Because if you do have a housing place for them to go, they have to follow the rules. So we recognize that. So what the police department is doing is we do checks. So Welch Park is your #1 problem in this area, which is actually over by Eastridge. We have officers coming out on an overtime basis, going out there citing homeless individuals, etc. And so I just want to I'm just trying to let you know that we get it, but it's not going to go away, but we're managing. I don't know, some people say, well, do what you can. One of the comments someone made yesterday was, well, they're all on the freeways now. Well, you're right, a lot of them are going on the freeway on the sidewall, and that's Caltrans. So we talked with Caltrans and the Highway Patrol. They're going through the same problem as we are. Lack of staffing, cost of living in the Bay Area is too much. I talked to a CHP's officer the other day that transferred to the Palm Desert area, and I said, why the heck would you go to Palm Desert? He goes, are you kidding? The cost of living is half the price, because in CHP, the pay is the same no matter where you go in the state. So a lot of them don't want to come to the Bay Area. They get stuck here because they're bottom of the rung by seniority, but they all leave. So they're having staffing issues too. The only good thing is they're on the state, so anybody here from the state, don't kill me for it, but we're doing what we can with that. And then the very, very last thing is, I talked about customer service, I talked about homelessness, is just crime in general. So that's our third rung. I already talked about the different things we're doing with crime. Everything from putting tabs, cars, special operations, and a whole bunch of resources out here. So that's kind of where we're at on the police department. I really just want to open it up for my last 7 or 8 minutes so I can keep on schedule to Q&A. And I think that will just spawn other conversations. So open it up, sir.
So, what about all the people on the medians, requesting money? Can you do something about that? Is it legal? Or is it...
So technically, it's illegal. You can't be out on the road. What's happening is our officers are going out there. So that in itself is a monopoly. I'm not sure if you know how it works, but those corners are all owned by this group of homeless people. And so it's kind of like their zone. We have fights over where other people come. So the only thing to get rid of it is enforcement, and we just don't always have people to go out and enforce it. We give them a ticket, and they list no address. So they're not even, the courts have no place to send a fine to. Okay, so their name goes into the system for a warrant. So we'd have to catch them, 3-4 months later. But because it's a non-violent crime, the jails are releasing everybody within 6 hours. That's just a policy. It's a non-violent crime. They're not housing them, so they come right back. So we recognize it. So,
Is it possible, this might be a question actually for Sylvia, is it possible in the areas where there's a lot of homeless people to put some extra dumpsters, so at least they can put their trash somewhere?
We're actually doing that this weekend over at Welch Park, where they have a huge homeless issue. They almost have an encampment throughout the whole park. And so they're having a lot of, public defecation, urination, drug use, that kind of thing. And it's like in the middle of their neighborhood. So we're doing a really big community effort to try to clean that up. But it's like what the captain was talking about. It's very cyclical. So if we move them out of the park, they'll go over to the businesses. And then the businesses will, of course, be upset by that. And they move them out from that area, and they go back to the park, and it's just this ongoing issue. And so, one of the ways that we want to address it is obviously we want to have our homeless teams that go out there and connect with them regarding resources, but we also need to activate that space and take it back, and have families go out there and have barbecues and have yoga outdoors. So we're planning we're strategizing to clean it up and then to really activate it so that the space becomes the neighborhood space again.
But then will there be more dumpsters out there
And
permanently?
well, not permanently, but we're cleaning it up this weekend. Then we're going to have a dumpster the following weekend. And then July 1st, anytime you can have any kind of large item pickup. So we're going to try to figure out whether if people dump on the side of your house, if that would be eligible for a pickup. So we're going to look into that, because starting July 1st, we'll have unlimited big ticket, big items, bulky item pickup. Yeah.
Okay.
There's homeless in our creek here.
Mm-hmm.
I would like and I'll do whatever it is that you need me to do,
Mm-hmm.
to organize what you did there at Welch here.
That would be great, yes.
So let me know how we can.
Yeah, we need just a group of people who are invested and want to change
Precise,
that,
yeah.
and we'll do the whole thing.
And I like your idea of
for-
creating another purpose for it, so
Yeah.
maybe we could create some little trails on our creek, so that way families right now are afraid to walk on those creeks. We live there, that's our
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
neighborhood, and they're afraid, and
Mhm.
there's all kinds of boogie stories, like the boogeyman stories.
Mhm.
And that you shouldn't be afraid to live in your own neighborhood. So let me know how I can help to.
Yeah, and that Thompson Trail Creek, they're finishing the design for that, so I know it's in the works. We did speak to the director, and he gave us an update. They're doing first the Thompson Trail over off the Capitol Expressway, and those are eventually. It's a slow process for them, but they're under the design process.
Yeah, let me know. Clean
Yeah,
up.
absolutely. We'll connect.
I'll get a group together, whatever.
I love it. Thank you.
thank you, Councilman. Sir?
I've been away for about 10 weeks, but I keep abreast of the community happening through the community website. I have 4 questions. A lot of, for what I have seen in the website, there's more people, more owners that have cameras, safety. And yet, very clear as to the recognition of the individual or the car. What does the police do with that? When we call, do they respond to the fact that there may be some evidence of who that individual may be, or the car that are in the neighborhood that don't belong in there? That's one question. The other one is, what is the position or status of when the individuals are smoking pot in parks? Is that allowable, even though it's a public place where families, children meet. What is the responsibility of the community to react to that? That's two. The other one is cars that are speeding. What is the proper position that we should take? Call the police, or they don't show up, or that they will show up? What is our responsibilities as residents of this area? And last one, in Yerba Buena, they put some roads warnings as to for the speeding. The benefit of traveling through other countries, I saw something similar in El Salvador, with the difference that they're farther apart at the beginning, and they get narrower and narrower in space as you go through, which makes you think, gee, I'm speeding. Because the way it's right now, people continue speeding because it's just, and then that's it. But if they were to have been put at the beginning, further away from each other, and getting closer in space, it would be more of a signal, not a constant, and that's it. Who takes care of that to remedy or to make it more proactive? Thank you.
So a lot of your answers or your questions are going to be related to staffing. So the surveillance cameras, great idea. We encourage it. We tell people to do it, not only for your own peace of mind, but if an actual crime occurs. If an actual crime occurs, someone breaks into your car, vandalizes, or someone gets shot, we're going to come out and we have community service officers, police officers that will get the video. The problem is that we've gotten is if it's not a crime, it's just somebody loitering in your neighborhood, it's not a crime. So to be honest, we're probably not going to follow up on it. Because what would be the want, number one, for us to detain that individual? And then number two, there's no way for us to recognize that individual. We don't have that type of facial recognition software that we can identify these people. So unless you're able to tell us that's John Smith, he lives 3 doors, look at, there's not much we're going to be able to do on that. So to answer your question, we have the ability to come to your house, but if they're not committing a crime or they're just going up and down your street, there's not much we're going to be able to do on it. Yes, please call the police and call 311. So to answer your question regarding speeders, same thing. You can call it in. We always encourage people to call it in because the squeaky door gets the attention. But no, we're not always going to respond because it depends on calls for service pending. You only have 4 officers in this area per shift. And so it takes 2 officers per call to be handled. So if 2 calls are pending or working, then you have nobody. So our traffic unit has been depleted from 60 when I was in there in the 90s to 5. And so there's just not a whole lot for the police department to do on the speeders.
Can one take, most of us have a phone now that can take pictures. Would that be useful or not?
Well, the rule is, in order for us to cite, we have to see it. So if you take a picture of a speeding car.
No, movie.
Yeah, we can't, we have no legs to enforce that driver. It has to be on view by us, and we have to give them the ticket. So if you said, Joe Smith was speeding, here's his picture, I am by law not allowed to go knock on his door and say, hey, you can't do that. So that avenue is gone. That's just it's a staffing issue. We used to have 60 motor officers and a lot of police officers. And actually the complaint 15 years ago was you guys are citing people for nothing and you guys are crazy and all this other stuff. So it's just evolved. You asked me about cameras, speeding, and what was your last one?
No, 2 more. Smoking?
Smoking. So with the new marijuana law, that's unfortunately a nonviolent crime, and because it's passed, it's going to fall on the low priority for our police department. So if you call it in and they're just in the middle of the park, you might get an officer that rolls by. So technically it's illegal to smoke in the park. It's a city piece of property. You can't smoke pot there. They'd have to leave and walk down the street. So
You can't smoke cigarettes either.
yeah, you can't smoke cigarettes here. There's actually signs that post it's a muni code violation. So theoretically, it's a crime. You can call 311 or 911, and theoretically we would respond. The problem is, you're averaging 10 to 15 calls pending every day in your area. And so it's gonna be way at the bottom, because they look at what's the impact to public safety. They're gonna say, well, he's in the middle of the park by himself, there's just a bunch of guys. So to answer your question, most likely, you're not gonna get a response, but we always encourage people to call it in, because it does capture statistics. So the more calls a park gets, the more action it gets. And that's one of the bases on how we determine services, is calls, because there has to be some measure.
And the fourth one about the speeding.
Yes, so I'll probably default to city council for that, because it's more of a Department of Transportation engineering answer. So I think what we'll do is, as soon as I'm done, Josh maybe can write down and come back to that. Because the police department, we just do the enforcement part. We can work with city council on solutions, but we kind of divert to Department of Transportation to engineer the roadway. And, there's rules and how we have to engineer.
I can give a really quick update on that. So the Department of Transportation has been completing studies for years on Yerba Buena. And, all of you know that there's been some fatalities along Yerba Buena throughout the last 5 years. And so the city is, they're doing studies and they recognize that. And so they've had some traffic calming measures implemented. So you've seen the bike lanes, the research shows that if you narrow a lane, just like the gentleman was saying, if you narrow a lane, people tend to go slower, right? So they're going to, so they narrowed the lanes. That didn't stop people from speeding, even though there's a lot of potholes on Yerba Buena. They still go pretty fast. And so they went to the rumble strips, right? And the rumble strips are pretty moderate in comparison to others that we've seen, or that could have been placed there. And so we're gonna, so that's what's been happening with DOT, with the Department of Transportation. But at the same time, we are going to invest in resurfacing a lot of the main streets throughout San Jose, Yerba Buena being one of them. And when the resurfacing happens, they're going to create a protected bike lane. So the lanes are going to get even narrower. So people are going to really have to go a lot slower. Right now, it's not a protected bike lane, so you could easily go into that bike lane if nobody's there, right? When the resurfacing happens, you won't be able to go into the bike lane. So you'll be forced to go slower. They're not going to put the speed bumps or the rumble strips until they do another study to see if that has changed the behavior of the drivers going on Yerba Buena. And we know that when we resurface a street, and people tend to go a little faster, right? So if they continue to go a little faster and this doesn't slow them down, then they will do the rumble strips. But they want to avoid that because, it's a nuisance for some of the neighbors. It's a nuisance for some of us who are driving down there and going through the rumble strips. It's,
You might have them look into what Chicago did with Lakeshore Drive, because they didn't use rumble strips. They painted white lines, and like he said, they started spaced fairly far apart, and then they got closer and closer together, and it significantly reduced the number of accidents that they had going into the corners on the north end of Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
No rumble strips, no nothing.
Yeah, we have a homeowner that has had 3 cars damage either the front of her home, the side of her home, into her yard, into her front, like literally crashing into her home. So we know that it's important, and we also have Vision Zero whose objective is to reduce the number of fatalities. And so along with the DOT resurfacing and then the Vision Zero efforts, we're going to have a lot more outreach and hopefully behavioral modification, right? Along with some traffic calming measures.
I just wanted to add, I think the gal from Vision Zero is here, that was talking, so Mike, can ask you some questions on the topic. Next.
Oh,
Please, anybody.
there we go. Yeah, we'll hear all about it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know what, I actually had something to ask about the speeding. Because I live on Aborn, on the corner of Aborn before Heritage, close to that area, a barn in White Sand. And cars, especially at night, it's like a raceway. Cars are speeding, you could easily hear, because my house is right on the corner, you could hear that they must be easily doing 50 or more. And it used to be worse before they put that light in Ruby. So the light in Ruby actually, because I've been in this area for 14, 15 years now, and the light in Ruby actually helped, but it's still really bad. I mean, super bad. And when I moved in, we put some rocks and some palm trees to, because I said if a car goes, at least that'll kind of stop it or slow it down.
Yeah.
But it's still super bad. And I know before when we had more police people, it was better because there was always a police officer somewhere on A board, and they would always stop up, so it helped. But ever since it went down, speeding has gone really bad.
So I think Heba has a suggestion, is it correct?
I actually had another question, because I know they were saying that San Jose might be a pilot for some camera for speeding to catch speeders.
Yeah, we're supportive of that. Unfortunately, it's taking some time to go through Assembly and the Senate, and
But that's California, or is it here in San Jose that it's still not?
it's a statewide, but we would be one, we were interested and we were very supportive of that. I was on a memo supporting this, as a way to have people have a punitive consequence versus just straight common measures. But I'm happy to take this offline. If you and a group of your neighbors, just like, oh my gosh. Franklin, I was going to say Mr. Collazo. Just like Mr. Collazo said, he has a concern. I'm more than happy to host a neighborhood meeting, a neighborhood watch that could lead to, we need a group of folks that are interested and reporting to the Department of Transportation those issues so that we can help move that.
So would it be something, because I understand, like the homeless trying to go out there and assist and whatever you need.
No, this would be for your concern.
Because the thing is, the speeders though, they
Yes.
speed and you can't really, they're going so fast, you can't really see. Because even motorcycles, they're doing wheelies, they're doing everything, and it's kind of like, wait, this is a main street. It is not like you could narrow A-born because there's so much traffic.
Yeah.
So, narrowing the roads, it's a good idea, but,
I don't have the answers to that because I know that it takes a study to figure out what the Department of their engineers, there's a whole science, that's very complex. You just think that, oh wait, just put a stop sign, right? That's, or a roundabout, or a stoplight, or something like that. So I can't speak on their behalf, but I'm willing to support your efforts into voicing those concerns. And if you would like, we can host a meeting near your home, and if you can collect a group of neighbors, we would love that.
About community policing and night walks. I know some neighborhoods do community policing and night walks. If we're looking at the issue of homelessness, the smoking in the parks and unsafe areas, I think there was a partnership with the police department to get training. Is there a way that we can, if we have a park or a school or an area that we would like to organize night walks, what's the process for that? Is it to contact the police department or city council?
I don't think our department has that program. So like St. John Beyond Church over there on Rock does it, but that
In the Santee area,
that's it's independent. And what I do is I just have the police officer do that area on Friday nights, cruise with them. But they've created it themselves. It's independent from the police department.
But I know that they did training with the police department, because I was part of the group that responds to this.
Our crime prevention folks, I can follow up for you. They can come out and do kind of like a crime prevention technique talk, but there's no program, and I've been here a long time, that actually is like that. Maybe they did it one time, but I know 3 gals that work with me now, they don't.
En verdad, tú eres un tipo,
No, it's perfectly, no, you mean?
The night walk.
Oh, no, it's perfectly, it's just neighbors walking together. What
They
they're
wear the
doing-
vest and
Yeah.
go out
Yeah,
together.
they're just more for visibility and.
As long as they don't wear a Punisher shirt, right?
Well, it's the idea of reactivating the community
That's what
and kind of letting
Councilor-
folks know that they're out. Yeah, and the last was just a comment. I know National Night Out is coming up August first. And our neighborhood Creekside, we've always been very happy to have the police officers come out and stuff. So we just really hope that we see you out there again. And we're out by the Combined Club, we do a block party, a couple
I
hundred
think I
people
came
come
out to
out.
yours last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came out to last year. So, we have that on our radar and we have tons of events coming out and full officers, so.
And we registered with, on the
That's
police
right.
vertical side. So we-
Thank you.
Can I have one more?
Sure.
I know, thank you very much for the SJPD. They have many, workshops to the community about hate crime. And majority is the senior and, middle-aged come. But, according to the community, they have more further that because the young, at the teenage and also the child, from the T5 to T8, it affected more hate crime. So would you try to, SJPD to the consideration about the workshop or the workshop to do this kind of thing?
Sure, so what you can do is, I know you talked with Sandra Varela
Yeah.
for crime prevention.
Yeah,
So
I
if
know.
you want to send her a message and just mention that you would like some type of a workshop. I've been going to different communities and just talking about my fault and the tolerance.
Yeah.
It's anecdotal, but we did notice, it's a more of a concern with the Trump administration. But, we're just telling people to be more vigilant and call it in. We will take a report, it's a mandated report, but there's also the line of freedom of speech. So we've taken several reports, but if a crime is not a nexus to the actual speech, hate speech, the district attorney's office are not following up on it. And they're citing Fourth Amendment, or not Fourth Amendment, but the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Good evening. My name is Ivan Lee, Deputy Chief Fire Marshal with the City of San Jose. First and foremost, Fire Chief extends his apologies. He didn't know he had a conflict the day that he accepted this invitation. So, the topic is very broad, general fire safety, and so I'm going to really depend upon you to ask questions because I can go from one end to the other, and it's supposed to only be 20 minutes. And so in a general sense, I'm gonna address, since we're headed now towards the summertime, you're gonna have people engaged in barbecuing, trying to provide maintenance on their yards using weed whackers or lawnmowers, striking rocks, creating fires potentially, clearance for your home around combustible vegetations. And then, of course, you have the 4th of July that's upcoming and you're gonna have fireworks, okay? I've done a few of these presentations now at other neighborhood associations. And basically, though, there we presented, or I presented, the plan that the city, police department in combination with the fire department, in combination with code enforcement, combination with the Office of Innovation, Communications and so forth, what we had rolled out to address this issue of fireworks and illegal fireworks and safety for the community who are basically tired of this activity going on in your neighborhood. And so, first and foremost then, I will touch on, basically on barbecuing and making sure that you guys provide for safety when you're doing that, okay? Number one rule, always do not barbecue on a combustible surface. So in other words, a wood deck. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to fires and when the little hot coals or whatever, if you're using charcoals, fall down from the bottom, and they hit the deck, guess what? It's gonna catch on fire, okay? And so, or barbecuing too close to a fence. Now, the code addresses that when you live in apartment complexes or other facilities, which my office, that is the Office of Fire Prevention, regulates. We do not regulate single-family dwellings, your homes, condos, townhomes. We don't regulate that. And so if a neighbor is barbecuing on their porch or barbecuing too close to a fence or some other combustible area, there's nothing that we can do about that. We enforce that which we have the authority from the state fire marshal to enforce. And so it's,
What would be a safe distance from a fence?
basically 10 feet, yes. And so it's kind of up to you to, just take caution. And it never hurts to have, if you have one, a fire extinguisher right there or a water hose turned on already with a, knob on the end so you can quickly douse it with a spray pattern, not with the jet stream, so you splatter everything everywhere, okay? Clearances for your yard. As you know, during the summertime, fire activity outside increases. You have people, again, out, as an example, doing maintenance in their yard, trying to do the right thing, to provide clearances and so forth. Well, in doing so, the weed whacker or the lawnmower that they're using could strike a rock. That could set off a spark, could catch the weeds on fire, have a nice wind coming through, fire takes off, there she goes, okay? Unfortunately, we have a very severe homeless problem also in this city, in which the homeless are down there cooking and so forth, and oftentimes there's fires that start. And so when you're doing those activities, that is clearing your yards to make sure that you have that nice clearance distance of no less than 30 feet, but preferably 100 feet. That is if you live in the urban interface areas or open space, basically saying you live very close to open fields or you live very close to trees and other wildland areas, that you want to make sure that you clear those spaces, but while you're doing that activity, have a water hose present with you just in case. Have somebody who's there acting as a spotter as well, okay? Clearances, for using your fireplace. You won't be using it for the summer, but oftentimes you neglect trees that grow up over your house in the summertime. And then when the fall comes or the winter comes, you crank up that fireplace and didn't think about, oh, this tree has grown up over my chimney now, which should have an arrestor on it that is cold, but maybe it doesn't. But in either case, if the tree is too close or so close to the chimney, and there should be a 10-foot clearance away from that as well, it could catch that tree on fire. So doing things like that in preparation around your home, making sure that you have adequate clearances so that if a fire does erupt, that there's a good chance, you stand a better chance of it not infringing upon your house. With that being said, now I'm gonna touch bases on fireworks. 4th of July is coming up. The city of San Jose has already received numerous complaints of fireworks related activities. This year, we've, in cooperation with the departments that I just previously mentioned, we're really trying to actively get out in the community and get the word out about, please don't participate in this illegal activity. We have flyers that are available on the city's website that are in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. You can download that flyer if you would like. We have lawn banners available if you would like. The city this year also has a program where if you're considering throwing a block party, the first 50 permits are free, or you have it right here. So if you're having a block party between the dates of July 1 to July 4th, and you're one of the first 50, then there's no cost to you for that block party. So that $175 fee is waived. The stipulation with that, though, is that there will be no amplified sounds. And you say, what is amplified sound? The best definition that I can give you is that if your neighbors complain, it's an amplified sound, okay? Because PD is not gonna come out with a meter, a decibel meter, and try to measure the sound. I wouldn't know what that meant anyway, okay? So that's what the definition, the working definition of amplified sound means. And also number two, you agree that you will not utilize any fireworks. And all of those who are participating at that block party, whether they are illegal or they say on the box or the firework itself, safe and sane. It's all illegal in the city of San Jose, okay? So we're actively out in the community sharing the message about this activity, going to schools, coming to events like this, going to work sites, sending out email. You'll see public service announcements again. You'll see billboards. You'll hear announcements on the radio. But we need you as the community, because this is your community, just like every other neighborhood area. It's your community. We need you to get the word out to your neighbors, put lawn signs out and so forth. Please don't participate in this activity. I do not recommend that the day of the 4th of July or any other day that there's active shooting of fireworks. I do not recommend that you confront that individual if you don't know them. If you are friends with that individual, certainly, I'm hoping that you have a relationship with them, that you can say that if that activity is not legal, it is not safe, it's harmful to, to pets. The noise scares them. It scares our veterans who have served us in military campaigns and so on and so forth. So, but aside from that, I do not advise you to confront an individual. It's not, your safety is not worth it, okay? Go online. That's the preferred way to go online. Give the address of the illegal activity, your name, your phone number, your contact information. If you can take a photo, you can download it. Anything, information, and once you go on the website, you'll see a red asterisk on the data field site that requires information to be entered into those locations in order for the information to be saved. Okay. So,
what website is that?
Pardon me?
What website address? that
is www.sanjoseca.gov/fireworks. And so you can hit it on the.
I put the flyer on the table. That's the black one.
Yeah, San Jose Cop, that's ca.gov/fireworks. Okay. Go on the website, and there's information on there regarding the ordinance. There's information regarding other venues throughout the city. There's 3 venues here in the city that will be doing firework related activities on the 4th of July. In addition, there's one that's taking place in Morgan Hill and also in Mountain View at the shoreline. So we're stressing to the community to go to these various locations and view fireworks legally instead of illegally, okay?
So a couple of questions. If I went to that website, would it help me understand what illegal and legal fireworks are? In other words, could anyone in the residence have, is there such thing as legal fireworks?
In San Jose, no.
No, okay.
But the state does allow, they have a whole website where you can go onto the California State Fire Marshal's website, and they list a whole, I don't know how many pages of legal, what they call safe and sane fireworks. In this city,
Zero. Okay.
safe and sane are just like illegal.
Second question.
You can't buy them in Gilroy and bring them here.
I got you.
You have to shoot them in Gilroy.
So second question. So as a teacher, a lot of parents are fired. So they'll tell me stories like, Mr. Poyaso, we know these people, they always do fireworks. And nobody, everyone's afraid to report because they're a so-and-so police officer. They're a firefighter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, or they'll say,
San Jose, they're from neighboring communities, so they host parties every year at their house. And so people want to be able to report anonymous. There's no way to do that.
is there a way to do that?
Yes, there is. You can go, not crime stoppers, crime prevention is the internal for the police department,
They
okay?
can also call 911 and ask to be anonymous.
They're so paranoid that they think that
And that's
there's gonna be some
understandable.
kind of repercussions, like, well, he's a police officer, they all know each other. Before you know it, they'll come knocking on my door telling me why I called on them, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a fear factor. I just want to make sure I don't give them the wrong advice.
Well, see, right, crime prevention, you remain anonymous, correct?
Yeah, but they
They
will
remain
call
anonymous.
911 and say, I want to be anonymous. They will not, because it's all recorded, they will not put their name in the event.
How-
The only problem is though, that there's no way for the officer to get a hold of them. So then sometimes they like to call, so they still won't know. So.
And the other downside to that is that if there is sufficient information to cite them, and we issue a citation, and that person challenges it, and the reportee is not willing to come forward, it gets tossed out. They don't get cited.
But the fireworks will end though,
Let's hope. We hope, okay? Again, their resources may be stretched thin on that particular time period, as well as fire. So it may not rise to the level to get an immediate response.
So, to tag on to what Frank was saying, are there any particular community groups or sites that are permitted to shoot off fireworks even within their own site?
Those that are licensed by the Bureau of Fire Prevention, they submit plans, they submit, of the site. The fallout zone is a very stringent process that we review with them to make sure we look at the size of the mortars, that is the shells that they're gonna be using and so forth. And they have to have an adequate fallout zone so that when the fireworks come down, it doesn't start a fire. And also we have inspectors there to monitor.
Okay, so there's a site up on the hill,
Mm-hmm.
up off of Quimby, that traditionally every year they have a viewing of fireworks, but then fireworks are being shut off at that site as well. They're told their community has been given permission to do that.
No. If it hasn't been reviewed by my office, they don't have authority, permission to do so. And so the three that I named off to you, those locations, Giant Stadium, Waz Park, and Almaden Valley, Those are the only 3 so far that are happening on the 4th of July. There's one that has requested to participate on July 3rd. That's the Silver Creek Country Club area. But it has to go through the fire prevention to be reviewed and approved. If it's not approved, then they can't engage in that activity.
Would you be involved if it was unincorporated?
Pardon me?
Would your department be involved if it was unincorporated or county?
County area, it's still, we respond, it's an illegal activity. If they approve it, they need to let us know. But if it's within the borders, basically of city jurisdiction, even though it may be unincorporated or so forth, we will review that and approve it or disapprove it.
So chiefly, would the best response then for something like that be to go to crime prevention and do that beforehand so that then people could go out and kind of check that this is something that goes on every year and these are the people that we know are the organizers, so that they could be talked to before the event, or to wait until the 4th of July when they're in the middle of the fireworks and call the police department 911? Well, we know that they're short-staffed and not gonna be able to come. We're trying to say, is there a way that we can get it taken care of before we get there? Because it seems like a thumbing of the nose at the system. They know they just wait until that day and they figure, well, chances are they're not gonna get to us.
It's not only a thumbing of the nose, sir. It's as though they have more rights. It's elitists. And that's that. There's too much of that going on in our country. We're all equal.
Mm-hmm. Basically, it comes down and taking a proactive position is what you're saying.
Right.
And that's the best method, but it comes down to what was mentioned earlier about staffing,
Right.
having resources. And these people that are engaged in these activities, they know that, we are strapped and that we can't we have to prioritize calls. And so on nights or, when a lot of activities like that are going off all over the city, and this is a citywide issue. Believe me, I don't have a screenshot up here, but it doesn't just happen on the east side or in the north or Almaden Valley or what. If I were to show you a map, you would be amazed. It covers the entire city. And so to have PD or fire hopping and jumping all over the city is just not realistic.
But sir, I want to make sure, if they call, that's a problem. We're not pushing the call so to portray an image of elitism. We don't care. We arrest officers if we have to, or we cite police officers. So if they feel that way, they don't want to call the police, I'm going to put it back on the neighbors for not calling the police.
Good.
So they need to call 911 if they're that bothered. And then to be honest with you, to go out to preemptive contact, we're not going to go out. Because that's like telling someone this Saturday, hey, I heard you always have parties. Don't have it. We have no teeth for that. So you can do that as a notification, like the deputy chief said, but the likelihood of us knocking on the door beforehand is not going to happen.
Again, that's why we're kind of going out ahead of time in the communities. And PD is taking a huge leading role in this, going out and spreading the word about please don't use illegal fireworks, going to schools and so on and so forth. Areas that habitually were known in the past, to engage in illegal firework activities and saying, shaking hands and just making their presence known and so forth. We sent out 200, or we're going to send out 233 warning letters. That's the number of individuals last year that received warning letters for reported illegal firework activities. So this year we're sending out that notice to them again, basically stating that you were identified last year, or you were sent a warning letter last year regarding illegal firework activities. As a reminder, please do not engage in this activity this year. Okay. And so, we're trying to be as friendly and educational and proactive and, as we can, but if we need to cite, we will cite, okay? We're just asking the community, you guys, don't put yourself in harm's way, but please let us know.
Can you cite a site versus a person? And I say that because the site is huge. And they set off the fireworks, and everybody says, I didn't do it, and so it's the site that tends to be habitually setting them off.
Mm-hmm.
Can the site get a notice, and can the site get cited?
Let me give you an example. If the site is a commercial property and the commercial owner is not there and is unaware of that activity going on his or her property, then they can't be cited because they have no knowledge of that activity going on their property. Now, if they had knowledge and they allowed it, now they can be cited. On a residential or personal property, if the tenant, the owner, whomever lives in the house is using illegal fireworks, even if, in front of their house, or if we identify them, and they could be at somebody else's house, they will get cited.
I'm gonna cut to the chase. The water does it every year.
That's right.
Okay? And I'm told they're untouchable.
Who is this?
The
Water?
The Sikh temple? Right.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Nobody's untouchable. Okay. Okay.
Scares the crap out of
Interesting.
God.
I don't have an issue with going up to, and saying, writing out a site or whatever. And
It very well may be that there are people who go there because it's being, how can I say, advertised as come here and watch the fireworks. This is a great view, let's face it, right? And people bring their own and they're shooting off aerial bombs from the parking lot, right?
Got it.
And, till 1 in the morning.
Okay. I'm hearing you.
Okay, that's the last question.
Okay.
Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
Well, good evening. Again, my name is Rosalyn, Hughey, and I'm actually not interim director until Monday, so I've got one more day to go. But thank you for having me.
Close enough, business is closed now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here this evening. I was asked to come and talk about a zoning process for the Evergreen College District project that I know probably most of you are very, very familiar with. We had an application that went through the city process last year, and they received a general plan amendment approval for the full 27 acres. You're probably aware that the city staff actually recommended just a partial, about 13 acres that would be, would have a change in the general plan designation, but the city council made a different decision at their discretion, as they can certainly do. So since that time, the applicant has now actually submitted to the city an application for a rezoning. And this particular application is what we call a planned development zoning. And so this particular type of development application is established in the city's zoning code. And I do want to take a little bit of time to explain it because it is somewhat different than what we call a conforming zoning district or conventional zoning district. So a planned development zoning application really, to cut to the chase, it really is a customized zoning district. So in many ways, it allows flexibility for a particular site within the confounds of what's allowed for in the general plan. So basically how it happens is the base zoning of the property doesn't change. So in this particular case, the base zoning is R15. It's a residential base zoning district. However, with the overlay of the planned development zone, it does allow for this customization of uses and setbacks and other development guidelines that we would review in any zoning district. So in this particular case, the applicant has chosen to go the route of planned development zoning. At this time, we do not have an application for a planned development permit. And the planned development permit is needed to actually effectuate or implement the planned development zoning. So first step that the applicant has chosen at this particular point is to do the planned development zoning, and at such later time, they will apply for a planned development permit, which will be required to actually do any type of development on the site. We are reviewing, the city is reviewing this application as we speak. We've actually sent out an initial comment letter to the applicant, sharing lots of different comments. And obviously many of you are aware that when the city council actually approved the general plan amendment last year, one of the conditions of that approval was that the applicant would actually undertake a master planning process that would involve community outreach to talk about the ideas for the full 27 acres and not just the limited 12.9 acres. So we have, the applicant is fully aware of that condition, and we've actually spoken with the applicant, and they do intend to undertake that exercise. And the city will be helping to facilitate that process and participate in that process. And the applicant actually already has on their team an outreach consultant that they're going to use to help throughout this process. So what we envision, we really haven't fully determined what this process would be. I know that many people in the community are very much interested in a charrette, which, you know, in layman's terms, it's basically a workshop. And so we see this master planning process really as an opportunity just to work with the residents to kind of basically a visioning exercise about the full 27 acres, how people would envision the types of development, different kinds of uses, where they could be placed, circulation issues, how the site could integrate to the surrounding neighborhood, talk about those particular issues. But I think it's very important as the applicant initiates this process with the community, because clearly there are already some parameters in place. So we think it's very important that the applicant work with the community, and we'll be working with them to just kind of outline what those parameters are. So because there's some things that are already in place. And so we want to be very clear that while it is an opportunity to vision and to talk about what you would like to see on the site, there are some parameters that are already in place. So it's not necessarily pie in the sky. So we want to do an exercise that's really grounded and based in reality. So what we've heard from the applicant is that this process could be initiated as early as probably August, I think is the initial time frame. And again, nothing has been totally fleshed out. They've got an outreach consultant. I know that they're going to be working hand in hand with the community to talk about what things the process itself, number of potential meetings or workshops, whatever is envisioned, to kind of scope out what this master planning process would be. So clearly the applicant is totally on board, and we know that this process will be underway while the city is actually reviewing the PD zoning application. So that's good that this process will be going on at the same time, because it would actually help to inform us as we conduct our analysis for the PD zoning. Yeah, I think with that, I'll open up for questions.
I thank you for being here.
Certainly.
We appreciate very much the council member has supported us in having the charrette. We're very concerned that the PD zoning going forward may limit the discussion that we have in this charrette. We're really concerned about any kind of application being decided and finalized before the community could actually get in. We don't want those options to be limited. The other thing that's very important is there are certain allocations that are already well defined within the Evergreen Development Policy. Absolutely. And we really truly want to understand what is not only the applicant's, what's the word I'm looking for, intention as far as possibly opening that up or asking to have that opened up. We had heard from Mayor Sam that that was not on the table. Okay, that could
That's
change,
correct.
right? I mean, you know how that goes, right?
Exactly.
Comment at a council meeting at 3 in the morning doesn't really mean a whole lot when the rest of the council, if it gets brought before for a vote, right? So we want to understand with the application that's going forward, how that impacts the Evergreen development policy, how it impacts the allocations, and where are the parameters as it stands now versus what could be there and what it would require to open up because of all of the impacts, not just traffic, but so many other impacts.
Right.
So that's a big comment, but it seems like the train is leaving the station, and there isn't everybody on board yet.
Okay, so
Just an observation.
thank you for that. Very, very great point. So concerning the existing application that we have on file with the city now, and we've communicated to the applicant. So based upon the current proposal, which is for medical office use as well as assisted living facility as well. Based upon those particular uses, we've actually worked with our public works staff who are they're the keepers of the numbers in terms of capacity that's remaining in the policy. So this particular proposal has been brought into that capacity. There is capacity for this particular proposal with some additional capacity left over. So this particular proposal doesn't eat up the entire capacity that's left within the policy currently. So we do have that information. We're going to be actually working very closely with public works staff because we know that the numbers are critical, and we want to make sure that we are working with accurate numbers because we're so close now to the cap. We want to make sure that we do have the correct numbers. So that's going to be an ongoing effort. Probably many of you may know Karen Mack. She's actually worked on the policy. She's probably the city's expert on the policy and the capacity. So we're very fortunate to have her on our team working with us. But no, point well taken. It's in terms of the city having to review this current proposal. At the same time, we want to fulfill the council's expectation of working with the community in a larger, more comprehensive master planning effort as well. The applicant has submitted, and so we have the duty to review that application. And like I said, at the same time, the applicant is very much aware that the visioning process, the master planning process should be kicked off sooner than later. And clearly, while the city is reviewing their current application.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
Now that you're, with your new duties, will you have to be going to both the planning commission and the city council meetings?
Short answer is no.
And that's a lot of meetings.
So thankfully, we have a great staff in our department. We've got folks who have worked for years in the areas of planning and building and code enforcement. So our planning official, who is Steve McHarris, he currently serves as the director's designee and conducts the director hearings that we hold every Wednesday night. He's now going to be staffing planning commission, and then we have a division manager who's going to be backfilling him, and then we'll actually be conducting the director's hearings on Wednesday mornings. So no, I won't have to do double work.
I'm involved in the land use committee of the District 8 Roundtable, and we had suggested to Councilmember Arenas, based on the council motion, that we do the charrette. And our thinking had been that since the applicant had requested the full 27 acres be general plan changed, and the council concurred and the community supported, that we would have a fresh start and a clean slate working with the charrette without having the PD permit application done. And we had also requested that the charrette be driven by the city, not by the applicant, not by the applicant's consultant. And in that council motion, in addition to your regular cost recovery procedures, there was dialogue, and it was very clear that any costs incurred in terms of processing this would be borne by the developer. We know about the constraints planning has.
Absolutely.
And it just seems much better that the charrette be conducted by the professionals retained by planning under the prerogatives that were given to planning on cost recovery by the council. Do you happen to know if the consultant is a land use consultant or a different kind of consultant?
So you're speaking to
We have to
the,
wrap this up.
Okay.
you're speaking to the outreach consultant?
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure in terms of their area of expertise. I would imagine that it is more in terms of community meeting facilitation and community engagement and less on the land use side. And I think that's where, the strength of our department will come to play. And we're going to be working hand in hand, with the applicant, obviously. It's part of what we as planners love to do in terms of community engagement and working with folks and coming up with vision and ideas for your neighborhood. So we're going to be working hand in hand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. And I am John Varela, and I am the chair of the Santa Clara Valley Water District. And I'm very pleased to also have with me tonight our vice chair, Director Richard Santos. And also we have our assistant from the Water District, Teresa Krakow, who is also here. She has provided us with information and some little tchotchkes that you can pick up and take with you. And as a reminder of what the Water District is doing. Now, I do have a script. I promise you I'll be finished in 2 hours. I'll give you enough time to go and watch the Warrior game if you're going to record that. Do I have 2 hours? Is that what you think?
And no one tells the score, please.
Yes, no scores.
0-0.
We're all recording.
Okay, so let's move on with this. The history of groundwater. Now,
Let me get out of it.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to abbreviate. I have a slide presentation, but I might deviate somewhat from it. So I'll give you this. The Santa Clara Valley Water District got its start in 1929 with the job of managing groundwater. So much water had been pulled out of the ground for crops and people that the Valley of Heart's Delight was actually sinking, much like the Central Valley is today. And today that's called subsidence. And it's something we all guard against. Back then, the community leaders were concerned about having to dig deeper and deeper wells and the increased cost of pumping water. So they formed the Water District and developed a plan to build reservoirs to capture rainwater and percolate it into the aquifers through percolation ponds you see along rivers, creeks, and streams throughout our county. Okay, we have 3 tenets: clean, reliable water, flood protection, and healthy creeks and ecosystems. Managing the groundwater is part of our mission, and that is to provide Silicon Valley with safe, clean water for a healthy life. So, when you get up in the morning, you take your shower, you go for your cup of coffee, you pour your glass of water, you drink it, you even think about it, you even give it a second thought. You smell it, you look at it, does it taste funny, does it look funny? How fortunate are we to live in a country that we have the ability to have safe, clean drinking water every single day. Most countries in the world do not have that, do not wake up with that every day. So bear that in mind when you drink your water. There are 7 districts in Santa Clara Valley Water District. Director Santos, as you can see, is District 3. I'm District 1. District 1 is that purple shaded area. You can see it's the single largest district of the 7, which stretches from where we are here in Evergreen, south to through the open space areas of the agricultural community of Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilbert, bordering San Benito County. The majority of the water issues that we have with the well owners, etc., and agriculture do take place in District 1. Clean, reliable water. The Water District's work is founded on 3 pillars, which I mentioned, providing safe, clean, reliable water. Our board is in charge with aggressively protecting the quality of the water we bring to those who serve nearly 2 million residents and 15 cities, as well as almost 5,000 well owners throughout the county. We provide wholesale water to 13 local providers, water retailers and communities, who use our groundwater basins and purchase water from our water treatment plants, along with other sources to deliver drinking water directly to homes and businesses. Let's see. Okay, a diverse portfolio. I want to get into this a little bit with you. Our water supply is not all local. We import from outside our county through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, and that forms an important part of our water portfolio, helping us to weather droughts and meet demand. In an average year, we import 55% of our water through the Delta, and yet 40% through local sources such as rainfall, storm runoff, and into our reservoirs, and 5% of that is water we use that is recycled. We also have a comprehensive water conservation program to help residents and businesses take long-term actions to reduce the overall demand. Okay. How many here in the room are familiar with the term Cal Water Fix? I see one hand. Cal Water Fix is a proposal by the governor that was proposed, I guess, what, 4 or 5 years ago, Director? That is mandating that the water districts throughout the state of California buy in on a $16 billion project to build tunnels just north of the Sacramento River that will bring more water into the Central Valley, into Southern California, and also here into our region. It said $16 billion. That's the original price tag. Anybody familiar with high-speed rail? Where that started and where it's at today? So, now, you do not get to vote on that. I, as your elected individual, have the responsibility of investing your dollars, your taxpayer dollars, into this California water fix. And we're going to be doing that here in the very near future. By September of this year, our board of directors, we're mixed on it at this point as to whether or not we are convinced that this is the right approach. We have other alternatives that we're looking at. We're investing in above-ground reservoirs. One is in Northern California called Sites near Shasta. This is a project that's 20, 30 years out, but we're looking at the future. Our children, our grandchildren will have water supply in the future. We're also looking at a dam that is close to us in Concord called Los Vaqueros, which is a dam that currently exists. We'll be expanding that. We will be joining that potentially for water banking more water locally. We also are looking at a dam very close to us, south of Morgan Hill, Gilroy, in the Pacheco area, in San Benito, north of San Benito County. It's called Pacheco Reservoir, which the Water District will acquire and expand it to give us more water storage above ground. I say this to you because those are investment dollars that we're looking at, which are your tax dollars. Now, the Cal Water Fix, you heard me say, you don't have a voice in that. But yet, the only way we're going to pay for that is through the water rates that you pay. So, we're not against it. We're still doing study. Your Water District Board of Directors has not made a decision on it as of today. We will have to by the end of this year. And whether we are opt in on this or not will be determined by what we learn between now and September as to what water supply we're going to be receiving from this investment. Are we going to get more water, or are we going to get the same amount of water that we're currently getting for the investment that we're going to be putting in? Stay tuned. This is a very important area for you to study and be aware of. So please be aware of this. It's important. Anything else you want to add to that, Director? Okay. All right. Santa Clara County groundwater at a glance, and where do we put all that water that we bring in? I mentioned the reservoirs, treatment plants. We have two, plants are two, but most of it goes into the ground. Our groundwater aquifers hold more than all 10 of our reservoirs combined. Why is groundwater so important? Well, the simple fact is that groundwater is a finite resource. If we take it out more than we put back in, we will run out of groundwater. It also leads to subsidence, and subsidence can let salt water into our drinking water, make certain communities more susceptible to flooding, and cause costly damage to infrastructure such as underground pipes as well as roads. In this graph here, the blue line is the groundwater elevation. The green line is population. Now, in the last 60, 70 years, we've gone from the Valley of Heart's Delight to Silicon Valley. We have more people moving into our region than, well, you can imagine. So how is that impacting our water usage and our water supply? Substantially. You'll see the orange line goes down, and up until the 1970s, when we halted subsidence in the county, parts of San Jose sank as much as 13 feet. The reservoirs that we see throughout our region were built in the 30s and the 50s and helped us capture water to replenish our groundwater, but explosive growth and major drought strained our resources. So we started importing water, as I mentioned to you, through the State Water Project in 1965 from the Central Valley Valley Project and the federal government. Okay, so let's move on to water purification. A sustainable way to have water into the future. How many of you have toured our advanced water purification facility? I see 2 hands. Would the rest of you like to do that? To see what the future of water is all about? Because we have the single largest facility in the western United States here. And if you don't know about it, shame on you. Seriously. Because this is your water sustainable supply system for the future. And if you're not aware of it, I strongly recommend you come and taste the water. Because this is what you'll be drinking in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. In addition to using imported water, we are looking to shore up our groundwater basins through the purification wastewater. You heard me, wastewater. Our Silicon Valley Advanced Water Purification Center uses 3 advanced technologies: microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet light disinfection. To take recycled water from the wastewater treatment plant, right across the street from the facility, and purify it to an extremely high standard. Currently, we produce up to 8 million gallons. We have the capabilities of producing up to 8 million gallons a day with almost near distilled quality water. Now, when the astronauts are up in space, what kind of water do they drink?
Urine.
Distilled. So, is there any new water? Are we producing new water in this world? How old is the planet? It is. So, the water that the prehistoric creatures did their business in has been recycled. And it's the same water that we're drinking today. So this, what it does is creates a faster, more plentiful, sustainable water supply for, guess what, us creatures called human beings. Because we use a lot of water. So, I encourage you to go on valleywater.org, our website, look up Advanced Water Purification Tools, sign up, come and visit our facility, and learn about what your future in water is all about, right here in your backyard. Okay, I'm going to move on. Some of this is redundant. Okay, let's talk about flood protection. That might catch your interest, don't you think? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about this. So this year, we had what was called the mother of all storms. I'll use that terminology. An atmospheric river that was ground zero right here in California, right here in San Jose, and impacted several of our communities negatively with flooding. Worse, now, was this a 100-year storm? Anybody know? Was this a 100-year storm? It was not. It was not a 100-year storm. On average, we receive these types of storms every 10 to 20 years, on average. The last time it rained with the capacity enough to cause our Anderson Dam in South County, Morgan Hill, to overflow was in 1997. Before that, 1982. So you can almost measure every 10 to 20 year cycles that our creeks will flood. Unless we can finally restore and correct the problems that are there. Now, the Rock Springs area, which flooded, 10 years ago, we had a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. These are the regulators. What they did was they came in and they do an economic evaluation. And in their determination, they felt that that particular area, neighborhood, did not represent an economic value to federal government, so there was no funding. So we could not repair it. So it went on. Director Santos, myself, Director Estamero just came back from Washington, D.C. 3 weeks ago. We sat there with the regulators, which is the Army Corps of Engineers. We sat there with your elected individuals. And they said to us, we want to help you. We want to issue the permits. We want to get you the funding. We want to correct the problem. We saw the visuals. We saw the pictures. We get it. We want to help you. So we're hoping by those words that actions will follow so that the water district, along with the city of San Jose and the county, can go in and once and for all fix Coyote Creek. We did it several years ago up downstream in El Viso. How many of you remember how often El Viso flooded? Forever. Forever. Did it flood this year? Not one bit. Now let me show you something here. You know what that is? That's Anderson Dam and Morgan Hill. Those are developments just below the spillway. I live about 3 miles from Anderson Dam. I've been there for 40 years. In the 67-year history of Anderson Dam, it has overflowed 11 times. The velocity of water that was coming out of that dam that was going downstream didn't impact the city of San Jose. Correction, the city of Morgan Hill. There was no flooding. These homes are yards away from the spillway. It's because of how we manage the creeks and the flow and how we were able to disperse the water. So, I just wanted to take some time to talk about this because it was so topical during the President's Day storm that we experienced. And I wanted to explain to you that there were some allegations that the water district didn't do enough. What could we do when we had the heaviest storms in almost recorded history? And everybody received the same information at the same time that we did. And it was a visual. The creeks were rising, the dams were spilling. What are you going to do? React. So I just wanted to go on record to say that your water district did react. We provided the information through the Office of Emergency Preparedness, etc. And I want to share one more thing with you. So 2 weeks ago, we were in Sacramento, working there with our regulators and also with our elected individuals there. And we're sitting in a room, and we're waiting, there's about 10 or 15 of us, and the California Water Commissioner, chair, said, I have a statement to make. Before we got into our meeting discussion, he said, Santa Clara Valley Water District, the envy of every water manager organization in the state of California. Everybody wants to be like Santa Clara Valley Water District because you do it right. Wow. I mean, that was an opening statement from the commissioner of the state of California that manages water up and down the state. And he's the one that decided to evacuate Oroville, 200,000 people. That person. So you just need to know, because you're getting the background story from the water district representatives and staff. You're not just reading about it in the newspaper. You're getting it from people that live it every day. And I wanted you to hear it from us, from my particular. Okay, maintaining streets, creeks, and streams, which is a particularly big discussion area in our region. We'd love to do it. We'd love to clean all the creeks and do it tomorrow. But there are regulators. We need permits. There are 7 agencies that are in front of us. Habitat, fish, wildlife, you name it. And we have to get permits from each and every one of them before we touch a rock, move a bush, trim a tree. We can't do it unless we get a permit because we're affecting habitat in some way or another. So it's frustrating to us, but we do it as best we can. By the way, we have a program which is called Adopt a Creek. Last 2 weeks ago, May 20th, we do this annually. You can volunteer to go into your creeks along with staff from the Water District and go in and clean up debris, refuse, trash, etc. You can't cut the bushes, you can't do that. But you can help us keep the creeks clean when you see refuse and garbage in the creeks. So just want you to be aware of that.
2 minutes.
Well, I'll finish now, how's that? So let me see if there's one more slide here for you to, well, that's a visual that we won't forget. Okay, we talked about conservation. So real quickly, conservation is a way of life. We were in a drought for 7 years. We had plenty of rain. The aquifers are filling, the above ground dams are full, but are we going to be in a drought next year, the year after that? We don't know. So you learned how to conserve. And congratulations, you did a fabulous job. The Water District is still living under the term of conservation. We're not forcing it. We're asking you to please continue to volunteer, be water wise, be water safe. We have a slogan, VOW, VOW, value our water. And I'll leave you with that. Value our water. Thank you for your time. Okay.
Question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. If you want to ask a
Okay, but we
question.
need to keep them short.
Sure.
Way over.
So I know, for 4 years, I like to remember, because we're really young. I have a problem though with the fact that we're talking about a 10% rate increase that just was voted on, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's sort of
9.6.
9.6, close enough. So when there is no water, we're told that we need to raise the rate because there's no water. And when there's a lot of water, we're told we need to raise the rates because there's a lot of water. So I guess, plus the fact, just to compound that, the city is voting next week on raising the rates on our delivery systems, right? And cutting back on the tiered rates. So now you get to use all the water you want. There's no incentive to save water anymore because you don't have a tiered rate increase. And yet the people who use no water to start with is going to see a quadrupling in their delivery costs. So we're getting hit by the city and we're getting hit by the water district. Help us out here.
We cannot control what our retailers do. They have their own margins that they work in. Some are private, so they're profit entities. We have a wholesale price. We sell the same price to everybody that is in the water district. We have 2 rates. We have zone G2 and zone G5. And you are fortunate because you live in the district, which is District 1, that has the lowest water rates of all the other districts. Why? Anybody know why? Because we have agriculture. In South County, this was all agriculture at one time. This whole area. But you're fortunate because you're in a zone that has agriculture in it. Therefore, if you're a grower, you get an incentive. It's called the open space credit. But because you live in the zone, your rates are lower than any other rates. The G2 rates are 50% higher than your rates are here. Now, do you think those people are happy? That they're paying double the rates that you're paying, to your point. And do you think that they're not lobbying us, the water district, to equalize the rates?
I guess the question is, why are they going up in the first place?
We have to manage. What you're paying for is the infrastructure that we manage. Okay? The 250 miles of creeks, 720 miles of pipes. But by the way, the average age of a pipe in the ground today is 70 years of age. So when your rates go up, it's because we're fixing the pipes. We had the San Felipe pipe, which brings water in from San Luis Reservoir into Anderson and into this region, break last year. Now that pipe is only 20 years old. So we're looking at analyzing all our infrastructure throughout the county. We have 3 water treatment plants. We have a water purification facility. All this takes money. And all this is so that you, when you pour that glass of water in the morning, and you drink it, or you take a shower, you have no problem. You're still paying, you can look at the water charts in the entire state of California. This region that you're living in has the lowest water rates in the entire state of California. This zone that you're living in has the lowest rates of all the state of California. That's the truth. That's absolutely. It's not our statistic. That's the state of California's statistic. Your question.
That's gotta be the last one.
Okay, so when you say determines the rate, right?
I'm sorry?
Who determines the rate?
Water district.
Who's the water district?
I beg your pardon?
Who is the water district?
The Santa Clara Valley Water District.
Thank you for having me. I apologize, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint presentation for today. I was under the impression that I would be given only 5 to 10 minutes, and this has actually happened. But I did bring some brief. Would you like to pick up your items? Is that? I did bring some brief handouts on the table. So if you'd like to pick up one, I'll give you a minute. And then I will use this chance to address a couple of concerns that were raised by one of the residents regarding airborne. Actually, I should mention to you that both Yerba Buena and airborne will be resurfaced this year. We're in the process now of preparing the striping plans for these two corridors. As the council member explained, for Yerba Buena, we will be implementing what's called protective bike lanes. We will be installing vertical delineators within marked buffer. So we will be narrowing the travel lanes further to slow down the traffic, and cars will not be able to encroach within the bike lane. We are also applying similar type design for airborne, but not protected, what's called buffer bike lanes. So we will be implementing 3 feet of marking abutting to the bike lanes to narrow down the vehicular travel lanes, to slow down the traffic. We're not going to be able to install any vertical devices because of all the numerous driveways along the corridor. One more item you also mentioned is the automated speed enforcement. We're in the process of trying to gain support from community groups, from different agencies. The number one factor in collisions in the city of San Jose and in fatalities and major injuries is speeding. That's why we're pursuing the establishment of automated speed enforcement, which would require legislation on the state level. We're working with the City and County of San Francisco, and we will be reintroducing the legislation in January of next year. So now going to Vision Zero. The Vision Zero initiative aims at eliminating fatalities, traffic fatalities, and reducing major injuries throughout the city. We were the 4th city within the nation to adopt this initiative back in May of 2015. At the time, DOT staff reviewed the collision statistics, all the data from 2010 through 2014, and they came up with what's called 14 priority safety corridors. They're mainly major arterials within the city that experience the majority of the fatalities and severe injuries. Vision Zero still, as I mentioned, applies citywide. With the help of the different communities, we performed safety audits along these corridors and identified safety improvements and applied for grant funds. And we're now in the process of designing or in the construction phase of these safety improvements on 7 out of the priority corridors. More recently, we reviewed the collisions again between 2012 through the end of 2016. And we actually ended up adding 3 corridors, Saratoga, Hillview, and Fruitvale, because of the increased number of fatalities and major injuries on these streets. So we will be performing later on this year similar safety audits and identify improvements on these corridors. The second page of the handout, these pie charts, it gives you some summary information on the fatalities that took place in 2016. We had 50 fatalities in the city compared to 60 in 2015. Most of the fatalities happened at night on major corridors. They mostly involved pedestrians and drivers, motorists. And I would like you because we will go back to these percentages as I explain the list of actions. And most of the fatalities actually happen mid-block, not at intersections. The remainder part of the handout is from the draft action plan. On May 1st, we updated our 2-year action plan and we presented it to the Transportation and Environment Committee on May 1st of this year. And we presented the safety report summarizing findings of our review of the collisions and the work that we're presently doing, as well as the draft action plan. And this is a summary list of the actions under engineering, enforcement, and education. It's posted on the website, it's still in a draft format, and I welcome your comments. And I actually, by the way, I brought some of my cards. Please feel free to connect with me, email me your comments. As was referenced earlier in the meeting, the traffic unit of the police department, the resources has been decreasing. So the enforcement has to be strategized with a focus on the priority corridors. It's now data-based rather than all over. Of course, in response to community requests as well, which is one of the reasons that we're actually pursuing the automated speed enforcement. Engineering, as I mentioned, we're presently working on 7 out of now 17 priority corridors funded by regional and state and federal grants. This is in addition to the local funds for pedestrian safety improvements, bicycle improvements, traffic calming projects, and again, we welcome your inputs and your requests in this regard. You can go on the DOT website and request projects. You can contact the council member office and request projects. On the educational side of things, which I would like to explain in a little bit more detail, behavior is one of the factors in the collisions that happen throughout the city, not just from drivers, from pedestrians, from cyclists. It really takes all of us to make a difference. And we're expanding our educational program. Right now we have very robust street smart and walk and roll program, targeting mainly the elementary schools. And one of our great Vision Zero team members is here tonight, Anna Lee. Please feel free to connect with her. She manages our successful walk and roll program. And they are now working with 60 schools throughout the city. But if we look at this pie chart again, the age category involved in fatalities and major injuries in this age group is only 6%. That's because we have a successful walk and roll program. And we want to be as successful in targeting all age groups. So we're expanding our educational efforts. We're now presenting educational information at medium and large scale businesses. We're going to senior centers and we're seeking out to seniors. we are going to the homeless community members of our city, because they actually represent a significant percentage of the fatalities in some parts of the city, such as on Monterey Road. We are targeting high school students, age where they can start driving. So we're expanding our program, which is one of my selfish reasons for being here tonight, because I need your help. We have training materials. We'll be happy to come and provide training seminars. We have safety devices that we can give out. Seniors, for example, have been very interested in safety vests, flashlights, all of the devices that we've been giving out. So if you have community events, if you have gatherings, and we can come in and provide such training and provide such devices, please connect with us. And I brought some brochures with safety tips for cycling, walking, and driving in 4 different languages that are provided on the table. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
How many fatalities were there last year?
50.
Is that an increase or a decrease?
And actually, it has been fluctuating over the years. In 2015, we had 60. In 2016, we had 50. So you could consider that as a reduction. But 2014 was lower. So it has been fluctuating. So far this year, we've had 20 fatalities. 12 of those are pedestrians. So we've been experiencing a rise in the pedestrian fatalities, and that's actually nationwide. Over the past 2 years, on the national level, we've been experiencing a 53% rise. Well, actually, I shouldn't. I will be alarming you if I provide all the numbers. But there has been significant increase in pedestrian fatalities nationwide and on the state level. We haven't seen it as much in San Jose, but we're starting to see it this year.
9 o'clock.
That says let's go. The lights are on the timer.
Okay. May I ask you that long time ago, I also attended many about visual aid here in both program with Vice-Mayor Rosalyn and also Mayor Sylvia. We talk about this a lot, and I also proposal about not in every district, not district A, but on the way district 7 between the building, between center and capital to the 7th Street. Last week, very dark. I'm senior, and sometimes I could not see, but I report many times about that already. And one more thing that I saw near the school, they had the root of the tree still. So that's why I like grandmom to take care of the kids to go home, very dangerous. So the other day we put all the salt, everything there, but to now I still something still, okay? Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you. And to respond to your concerns with regards to the street lighting, one of our engineering initiatives is actually upgrading the street light to LED. Because of the limited resources, we're about 1/3 away in finishing all of the street lights within the city. We finished all of the priority corridors, and we're gradually progressing. We're not really doing photometric analysis to assess the spacing between the street lights and add more, which is much more expensive, but we are upgrading the lights, the bulbs, into LED.
Yeah, because that's near my library, so that's why we go there all the time. and then meeting everything, so we keep an eye on that, exactly.
I will pass that on to my coworker.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jim. So we know that it seems like the Evergreen School District, Evergreen City College District still continues to really not listen to us. That's the feel I'm getting. I don't have all the details. And so I'm going to compare that to the Evergreen Elementary School District Board. Much different. They heard the community and they're making adjustments. So I'll give you something specific that was announced yesterday at our staff meeting at Laurelwood Elementary School. Number one, we're not closing down next year, number one. And number two, we're going to become an international baccalaureate program, which is a specific framework, which I've already talked to parents about, and they're excited. It's going to attract more families. And there's another program in the mix, and it's a possibility, so that, now this is gossip, but we might have a full language immersion, school within a school at Montgomery. So my point is this, that Jim and company listened, they implemented what the people shared, and they didn't take the easy route of just closing the schools. So thank you, Jim Zito.
Well,
It's dark.
High five. More for that. It's the whole board, and we all looked at it and said, this was a train without a conductor. We
Much
got
appreciated, Jim. Much appreciated. Yeah, you're responsive. That's what, I appreciate it. All right.